How does this Spider-Man go from this
Sorry, pal.
to this? Hold on to your webs today, everybody, as today we cover the entire story of Spider-Noir so far, from the first case to the final betrayal. Spider-Noir is set in the grisly backdrop of 1930s America during the height of the Great Depression. We follow the story of Ben Reilly, a jaded private investigator brought to life by Nicolas Cage. This series effortlessly mashes classic superhero lore with the dark, cynical tropes of the 1940s detective fiction. Well, without further ado, let's dive right in. Episode 1 of the series starts off with a backstory. 5 years ago, Ben Reilly had all of New York under his eye. Gifted with the abilities of a spider, he kept the streets safe under the name The Spider. And he still had a heart, mostly because of Ruby J. Williams. She was the light in his heavy darkness, and they were supposed to get married in the spring. But this city doesn't really do happy endings. During a date night out, Ruby was killed. Even before Ben could propose to her, Ben blamed himself entirely for her death, as he believes he could have saved her with his powers. Ruby's death is what made Ben tear off the mask and quit the hero business. 5 years later, Ben is a private detective running on cheap coffee and regret. He's chasing a guy named Jimmy Addison when a car door mows him down, and then just drives off behind Addison. Jeez! He shakes off the hit and run, follows Addison's trail to the Standard Oil Company, and arrives just in time to watch Addison's hands spontaneously ignite. Right before a gunman, the same one who hit him with the car, pumps several rounds into Addison's chest, causing nearby oil to catch fire and blast. The resulting explosion sends the shooter flying. Ben later IDs the gunman as Patrick Donegal, a rival PI hired by the same client, a man named Winston. Ben was paid $30 for this job. Patrick got $50. Something's off. The next morning in his dusty office, Ben breaks the news of Addison's death to his fiercely loyal secretary, Janet Ruiz. Before they can even process it, a Mr. Carmody walks in. Paranoid that his wife is cheating on him, he wants photos of her while she is meeting the supposed affair partner today. A plan which Carmody overheard. Ben takes the gig because rent doesn't pay itself. Looking for answers, Ben meets up with his old pal, New York Herald reporter Robbie Robertson, at a local diner. Robbie drops some heavy news. Somebody pulled an arson in Silvermane's mansion, who is a well-known crime ring leader controlling New York from the shadows. The arson, which was started by Addison and his fire powers, ended up incinerating a chunk of the mob boss's crew. Robbie reminds Ben that Silvermane has a chokehold on NYC and the people desperately need the Spider back. Yeah, Robbie knows about Ben's history as the Spider. When Robbie uses Ruby's memory to stir his conscience, Ben just shrugs it off, muttering that she's been gone too long to matter anymore. Moving on with his day, Ben bumps into Frankie, a local newsboy and a pickpocket, who we'll be seeing more of. Later at a bar, Ben meets up with Patrick and lays out the blueprint to find out why Winston wanted Addison so badly, warning a half-drunk Patrick to be sober and ready by 9 a.m. When night falls, Ben stakes out the Red Cliff Hotel, waiting for Mrs. Carmody. When she slips inside, Ben uses his good old legs to scale the fire escape up to the penthouse. Through the glass, he watches a man aggressively forcing himself on Mrs. Carmody. Ben snaps his photos, but his old instincts kick in. He fires a line of web to stop the attack, buying Mrs. Carmody enough time to run away. The next morning, Winston storms into Ben's office demanding everything he knows about Addison. Ben, kind of pouty because of Patrick's higher pay, demands $200. Winston draws a gun, but Janet is faster, leveling her own gun right at his head. That escalated quickly. Winston backs down and drives straight to Silvermane's now-burnt mansion, completely unaware that Patrick is tailing him as part of Ben's trap. Wandering around the estate, Ben and Patrick overhear a furious Silvermane ordering his henchmen to find Addison. Seeing the heat of a mob war coming, Ben decides he's out, quitting the case on the spot despite Donegal's objections. Back at the office, Janet drops a bombshell while looking at the hotel photos. The mystery man Mrs. Carmody met wasn't a secret lover, it was Mayor Alfred Morris. Ben realizes that if word got out that the mayor is having an affair with a married woman, he'd surely have a target on his back. Ooh, that's bad. Realizing he cannot risk his life, his business, and the people around him, Ben dismisses Mr. Carmody, lying through his teeth that his wife was alone all night. Janet, broke and fed up with a boss who keeps walking away from paying cases, decides she's had enough. I mean, a girl's gotta get paid. Janet is desperate and suggests they blackmail Mrs. Carmody with the photos instead. Ben reluctantly agrees. Ben later meets Robbie at the city morgue where Addison's body has been taken. This means that Silvermane now knows his target is dead. Suddenly, Ben's long-dormant spidey sense screams in the back of his skull. Realizing Donegal is in grave danger, Ben rushes to warn him. He also learns from Robbie that the woman in the hotel isn't Mrs. Carmody at all. She's Cat Hardy, a nightclub singer. Ben decides to listen to his spidey senses, but arrives too late. While Cat is performing on stage, Silvermane's goons have already ambushed, interrogated, and murdered poor Donegal. During this, we also learn that someone had in fact hired Addison to kill Silvermane. Silvermane also ordered his goons to find Addison's body and go after the other PI, which is none other than Ben himself. Ben is momentarily captivated by Cat's performance. Honestly, man, so am I. After the curtains close on Cat's show, Ben confronts Cat, who is protected by a huge man named Flint Marco, to talk about the setup. Ben shows her the incriminating photos and suggests they negotiate a price over a few drinks, but Marco follows Ben out into the night, leading to the brutal brawl on top of a construction site. During the fight, Ben is horrified to discover that Marco poses dangerous supernatural powers just like Addison did. Ben manages to use his wits to defeat the giant Sandman, but before he can finish it, Cat intervenes. Tired by the web of lies, Ben simply leaves the photos with them and walks away empty-handed. The next morning, the office is quiet. A frustrated Janet is packing her bags, done with a boss who gives up on his cases. But just as the door is about to close on Ben Riley's office, Cat Hardy walks through it. She isn't there to threaten him this time. She's got a brand new case. She wants Ben to find Flint Marco, who has completely vanished into the city's dark underbelly. Episode 2 picks up right where the chaos left off, as Cat Hardy fills Ben and Janet in on the disappearance of her bodyguard, Flint Marco. She doesn't know much about his private life, but hands over his address and confirms what they had already suspected. Flint has been transforming into some kind of sand monster, and it's been getting worse for months. When Ben pushes for clues, Cat simply says that he's the investigator and should start investigating. She leaves him to get to work while Janet heads down to the precinct to squeeze her police contacts for info. Across town, the underworld is shifting. Silvermane meets with Winston to plan a dockside meeting with a new Canadian supplier. Winston argues it's too dangerous for Silvermane to be out in the open while someone is actively trying to kill him and suggests scouting the docks first. Silvermane agrees, but makes one thing clear. He wants Ben Riley brought to him. At the same time, Ben slips into Flint's apartment and tears through it until he finds something useful. A box of postcards from France and an old military photograph. Standing side by side in uniform are Flint Marco and Jimmy Addison. Before he can process it, Winston and one of Silvermane's goons barge through the door. Ben dives into the closet and then realizes he left his fedora on the table. Rookie mistake. He shoots a web line at it and yanks it inside. The noise catches Winston's attention. He moves towards the closet, tries to open it, but fails due to Penn's spiderwebs, gives up, and leaves. Back at the office, Janet's digging pays off. She learns Flint grew up in Brooklyn with a long arrest record, which tracks with his ties to Silvermane. The timeline makes both Ben and Janet wonder whether Cat knew about Addison all along. Ben corners her at the alcove, the bar at which Cat works, while she plays an original tune at the piano. He puts the army photo in front of her. She admits Flint served in the war, but denies knowing Addison. Ben lays it out plainly. Addison was the man who torched Silvermane's estate, and both Addison and the PI tracking him are dead. Cat, more intrigued than rattled, tells Ben he's braver than he pretends to be. She reveals that Alcove is owned by Silvermane, and then warns him to not mix her business with Silvermane with her business with him. Damn, that's cold. As Ben walks out into the night, he has no idea that a partially sand-transformed Flint Marco is watching him from across the street, then looking longingly up at Cat's window. Things get ugly when Ben returns to his apartment. His spidey senses flare, but before he can react, two goons ambush him. Ben tries to defend himself with his web shooters, but to his horror, his powers completely fail him.
It's Tai Chi.
He hurls a toaster in desperation, but the thugs overpower him, beat him bruised, and throw him into the back of a car. Insisting that he knows nothing about Addison, Ben looks for an opening and cracks the goon next to him across the jaw. Then he leaps from the moving vehicle, disappearing under a nearby bridge. The next day, Ben and Robbie watch Mayor Alfred Morris work a crowd with campaign promises about ending prohibition and lifting citizens up. Robbie clocks Ben's fresh business and pushes him again to suit up as the Spider. Ben, in return, just warns Robbie to tread carefully on the Addison story. Robbie ignores him and chases a lead in an alley to a rundown house looking for Addison's wife, Vera. A hostile mystery man answers instead. When Robbie mentions Addison burning down Silvermane's estate, the man is visibly shaken by the news of Addison's death. That's when Robbie notices a melted chair sits in the corner of the room. The man realizes and kicks Robbie out, but before letting slip that Addison was sick, he doesn't know who hired him, and Vera can be found at the Jeffrey Hotel. The stakes get higher when Ben arrives at his office to find it entirely ransacked. Silvermane's thugs had held Janet in gunpoint, threatening her life before leaving. Terrified and weary, Janet tells Ben she's waited 5 years for the old heroic Ben to return, but she can't risk her life anymore. She walks out, quitting the agency for good. Realizing he can no longer hide from his past, Ben drives to the building he used to live at, disguised as a maintenance worker, under the pretext of fixing a leak. He uses a wrench to smash through a bathroom wall, recovering a small trunk hidden inside. He opens it to reveal his old spider suit, vanishing before the residents discover the hole in the wall.
I don't think that guy was a plumber.
Meanwhile, Robbie tracks down Vera Addison, who's living in a luxury at the Jeffrey Hotel. She tries to slam the door, but Robbie warns her that the city's most dangerous men are looking for answers. Vera doesn't cry over Jimmy's death, admitting that 6 months ago he discovered an innate talent for setting fires. She claims she doesn't know who hired him. Simultaneously, the mystery man from earlier meets with Flint Marco, warning him that a reporter is asking questions about who hired Addison to kill Silvermane. Flint, looking progressively worse, laments that this time he changed completely into sand and couldn't fully change back. The man reminds him that the doctor warned them they didn't have long, suggesting they stick together. As the day progresses, Winston scopes out the tracks and gives Silvermane the green light. But as Silvermane's caravan drives down the road, the Spider makes his dramatic return, swinging through the bright sky. That was really cool, not gonna lie. He effortlessly drops onto the lead car, disabling the goons as Silvermane orders his men to open fire. Terrified, Silvermane asks who hired him. The Spider just says that he owes Ben Reilly a favor and demands the mob boss stand down, issuing a final deadly warning to stay away from Ben and his people. The hero vanishes into the, day? When he returns to his office in costume, the phone rings. It's Robbie asking if he was the one who stopped Silvermane's car. It turns out the police had a massive sting set up to catch Silvermane in the act at the docks. But because the masked hero intercepted the mob boss, Silvermane never arrived. Damn. The Spider is officially back, but his first heroic act just completely ruined the biggest police bust in the city. The next episode opens inside Ben Reilly's wrecked office, where the sweeping of broken glass offers a rhythmic hope. Sweeping away the debris left by Silvermane's thugs, Ben firmly assures Robbie and Janet that Silvermane won't be a problem anymore. Robbie also states he met Jimmy Addison's wife, Vera, who knows exactly what game is being played. More importantly, Robbie spots the mystery man from the alleyway in the old military photo Ben found alongside Flint and Addison. Realizing the puzzle is expanding, Robbie goes outside to look for answers, while Ben tasks Janet with a historical deep dive. Since the military was strictly segregated in the 1930s, which is just a fancy word for black and white people cannot be together, these three men couldn't have served in the same standard unit, meaning they must have been prisoners of war together. But before they can dig deeper, Silvermane himself strolls into the office, surprisingly not for a fight, but to hire Ben as a detective. Seems like all of Ben's subjects are turning into clients. The mob boss suspects there's a rat in his inner circle who sent Addison to torch his mansion and also called the police to ambush him in the previous episode. He clears Flint's name from suspicion and promises a massive bonus if Ben sniffs out the traitor. Once Silvermane leaves, Ben's sharp eyes catch a detail on the retainer bills. They are subtly marked.
I heard a rumor there's even 100.
Crafty bastard marks all of his bills.
He then checks the cash he received from Kat Hardy, who works at Silvermane's bar, and realizes her money is marked too, just in a different spot. Isn't Silvermane being a bit too careful? After this, Ben decides to actually uncover the rat. He goes undercover at the hospital looking for room numbers of the goons busted in the dock raid. He gets information from the men and learns that the sting operation came together pretty quick, with orders coming directly from Mayor Alfred Morris.
Do I need to remind you that you're lying on your stomach with a bullet stuck in your ass?
That's suspicious. Meanwhile, Robbie tracks the mystery alleyway man just as the police arrive to sweep the area. As cops swarm the man, an officer strikes him with a baton, causing his skin to unnaturally shift. Flint Marco suddenly bursts onto the scene scene, and the two superpowered men brutally fight off the police. Robbie frantically snaps photos capturing the terrifying phenomenon on film. Back with Ben, he pushes his way into the apartment of Mr. Carmody, discovering his real name is Hicks. Under pressure, Hicks confesses he's just a low-level merchant who received a tip about Kat from the mayor's office, hoping to blackmail either the press or City Hall. Suddenly, Ben's spidey sense prickles, and he spots someone stalking him parked outside. Ben goes to see Kat and immediately tells her about Silvermane hiring him, and that he's putting searching for Flint on a hold. Kat admits her club and life are entirely under Silvermane's thumb, confessing that she's scared about the power Silvermane holds over her. Leaving her place, Ben runs into Winston and accuses him of being the rat. Winston fiercely vows to harm the traitor himself. He demands Ben bring any findings to him first and hands him cash. But as Winston walks away, Ben checks the cash Winston handed him. It bears the exact same markings as Silvermane's bills. Robbie learns the alleyway fighter is Lonnie Lincoln. He hopes his photographic scoop will win back his full-time job at the Bugle, the old newspaper agency he used to work for. The Depression sure hit everyone hard. Janet is able to confirm the ultimate connection. Addison, Flint, and Lonnie were indeed prisoners of war, and the photo was taken the day that they were freed. Ben realizes the danger is skyrocketing. He concludes Kat is likely the rat, and Winston probably knows and is out to kill her. Ben realizes he can't let Kat die and must betray Silvermane. Is it just me, or does Ben have feelings for Kat? Ben has a plan and gets Vera Addison's room number from Robbie. He shakes off someone following him with some help from Frankie, who pretends to pickpocket the man. Then Ben corners Vera at the Jeffrey Hotel. She refuses to talk and greedily demands $1,000 to leave town, threatening to call the Silvermane about his betrayal if he doesn't pay up. Damn woman. Ben then visits Silvermane, cryptically warning him not to get emotional when the rat is unmasked, while secretly leaving some webs on the door hinge for later. It turns out that the editor Robbie approached at the Bugle, prints the photos, but rewrites the piece into a sensationalized smear campaign. He calls the veterans monsters, which angers Robbie, as he never meant for them to be called that. Elsewhere, Ben enlists the help of Frankie, as he needs an alibi.
I need to rely on you, Frankie. Can I rely on you?
I'm your man.
Frankie dresses as Ben and moves behind the office curtains while Ben leaves as the Spider. Ben swings into the Hillhurst Hotel where Silvermane is staying and slips into his bedroom. He then uses his heightened spider hearing to crack the safe and steals the exact $1,000 needed for Vera. Wait, what is he even planning? Simultaneously, Kat returns home to find Flint waiting. They share a passionate, desperate kiss, planning to flee the city together. Oh my goodness, I knew they were dating, but as Flint embraces her, his skin turns into shifting sand. Smashing the wall in agony, Flint realizes he's too far gone to ever live a normal fantasy with her, and he storms out, leaving Kat heartbroken and alone. Ben delivers the stolen cash to Vera, unaware that Silvermane's goons are watching. Moments later, two men intercept Ben, stating Mayor Morris wants a word. The mayor slickly attempts to broker a deal with the Spider through Ben, looking to establish order in the city. After the meeting, Frankie, who had been tasked to keep an eye out on Kat, runs up with urgent news. Kat just took a cab to the train station. Ben intercepts Kat on the platform, accusing her of being the rat. Before she can explain, Winston and a squad of gunmen ambush them. Winston reveals that he beat the truth out of Vera, and they capture and drive Kat and Ben into the desolate woods where Silvermane and the beaten Vera await. At the woods, Vera immediately starts lying, pointing a finger at Kat. But Ben outsmarts everyone, asking Winston for the blackmail money. Winston pulls out the cash Ben gave Vera. Silvermane inspects the bills and smiles coldly. Because of the markings on the bill, he knows exactly where his money goes. Only thing is, Ben faked the markings after learning Silvermane's patterns. The markings prove that the cash came directly from Winston's personal cut. Realizing he's been framed by Ben, Winston panics. Vera confesses Winston threatened to kill her if she didn't blame Kat. Damn, Ben, he's really smart. Without hesitation, Silvermane shoots Winston dead, sending him tumbling into a freshly dug trench. Silvermane turns a cold gaze to Ben, asking if he's handy with a shovel, because they're gonna need another grave. Suddenly, Silvermane shoots someone else, but before we can see who it is, the screen turns black. Episode 4 explains that the final, echoing gunshot in the previous episode didn't kill Ben or Kat. Silvermane instead put a bullet straight through Winston's pal, Joe. Hook, line, and sinker, Silvermane completely fell for Ben's story about Winston being the rat. But Silvermane isn't a man to leave loose ends. As Kat takes the stage at the alcove to belt out another song, Silvermane drinks with Ben, laying out his next move. A set down with the police chief to get an explanation for the sudden dock raid. After her performance, Kat playfully asks the boss if he has any regrets about almost executing her. He merely shoos her away to fetch more whiskey. The brave face lasts only until Kat locks her apartment door, collapsing onto the floor in a heap of tears due to how scared she is. I feel kind of bad for her, guys. The next morning, Ben stumbles into his office, nursing a brutal hangover from his late-night drinking session with the mob boss. Janet Ruiz is already there, furiously dodging a barrage of calls from the mayor's office, while Robbie leaves to go to look for Lonnie. Across town, Silvermane visits Kat to know why she was trying to run away at the train station. The dude literally controls every part of her life, down to the dress she wears and where she lives. Of course she'll try to escape. Kat plays it cool, repeating the exact story Ben told her. She only bolted to the train station because Silvermane had gone completely unhinged, and Ben was actually there tracking her for the mob, right up until he realized Winston was setting her up. Back at the office, Janet is teaching Frankie some maths when she gets a call from Kat asking Ben to meet her. Janet sends Frankie with the message to Ben, cutting their study session short. When Ben arrives to meet Kat, she urges him to move the conversation somewhere safer, leading him to an abandoned theater where she used to perform before Silvermane scouted her and basically bought her soul. Looking out over the dusty velvet seats, Kat finally unpacks her story. Years ago, a kind-hearted dentist named Thomas caught her eye. He proposed, she said yes, and then Thomas vanished. Jeez. She learned later that Silvermane had killed Thomas just to prove a point. Nobody else owns what belongs to the Kingpin. Kat admits she saw a second chance at freedom in Flint Marco, but she knew Silvermane had to die first. She was the one who hired Jimmy Addison into committing the arson, only for Addison to screw up and the Spider to ruin her second attempt. What? As the confession spills out, we see that Flint has entered the theater, overhearing the truth. Meanwhile, Robbie follows a man serving meals to veterans and manages to meet up with Lonnie. He tells Lonnie that the newspaper article twisted his words and he never meant to call them monsters. At the same time, Ben and Kat share a quiet, heavy car ride downtown. Kat admits that she doesn't want to be alone tonight, and Ben nods to the driver to turn back towards his apartment. Is this going where I think it is? Meanwhile, Flint goes to see Silvermane, claiming he was just laying low. Silvermane welcomes Flint back with open arms, regardless of the sand shifting beneath Flint's skin. Silvermane reveals to Flint that Winston was the rat, which surprises Flint as he had just overheard the truth at the theater. Back at Ben's office, Robbie brings a defensive Lonnie in for answers. Janet diffuses the tension by deciding they should play cards, gently asking Lonnie about the H engraved on his locket. He opens up a bit, saying it stands for his mother, Helen. Robbie shares a story about his own brother who was a prisoner of war, and Lonnie finally cracks. He admits that the Germans got him too, pointing them towards a mysterious Doc Faber, who can explain the bizarre transformations that are occurring. At the same time, Ben pours Kat a drink at his apartment, and also opens up. He tells her about Ruby, the smart, vibrant girl he loved. The peace shattered when Ben took on a case involving a deadbeat husband who eventually spiraled into heavy crime. Driven by a thirst for revenge, the man tracked Ruby down and killed her that night just to make Ben suffer. Ben grieves that he was across town getting drunk, entirely oblivious to the danger, and arrived far too late to save her. Crushed by the guilt, Ben admits that while the criminal pulled the trigger, he ultimately blames himself for her death, believing Ruby would still be alive today if she had never met him. That he deserves to be alone. Kat reaches across the table, taking his hand, suggesting they can be alone together. She talks about her dream of escaping to Santorini. The mood changes after the two open up to each other. Ben leans in for a kiss, but the fragile moment shatters when a frantic radio report details a monster tearing through the Diamond District. Kat figures out the monster is Flint and begs Ben to help, but Ben freezes, refusing to get involved. Disgusted, she calls him a coward and storms out. But Ben starts feeling guilty and calls Robbie to grab his camera. He races down to the Diamond District in full spider garb, but it's not Flint causing the havoc, it's a completely new superpowered person who's waving around electrical currents. The electric villain drains power from the nearby wires and fries the spider with a massive shock, triggering a brutal brawl amidst the concrete. Spotting Kat watching from a terrified crowd, the spider cuts the local power grid, goading the villain into a melee fight that completely drains the villain's electricity until a heavy attack from the spider knocks him cold.
Can I give you a hand with that?
Before the dust can even settle, Mayor Alfred Morris swoops in with a fleet of reporters, ordering Robbie to snap the front page photo as he boldly announces a grand heroic partnership between City Hall and the Spider. Could you be more opportunistic? Later that night, a bruised and exhausted Ben stretches out on his apartment bed. The door clicks open and Kat steps inside. The air is thick with unspoken tension as she asks if he wants to know what happens next. Looking at his fresh bruises, she asks him to tell her just one thing: if her sudden suspicion is right. Before he can answer, Kat deliberately steps backward, falling straight out of an open window. Ben doesn't hesitate. In a flash of pure instinct, his arm shoots out, and a strong line of webbing snags her wrist, yanking her safely back through the frame. Man, I've been waiting for this scene. Dangling in his grip, Cat smiles a knowing smile.
Nice to meet you, Mr. Spider.
As the rain continues to fall outside, the two lean in and finally kiss. Episode 5 starts off as we see Ben and Kat grabbing a bite for dinner. Kat asks Ben how exactly things started. You know, the "I'm a spider" thing. Ben flashes back to the war trenches of Germany. Yeah, during World War I. Years ago, Ben and his military unit stormed a Nazi prisoners camp, busting into the cells to liberate the captives. A young human Flint Marco actually saved Ben from a guard while Jeremy Addison and the other prisoners were unshackled. Pressing deeper into the compound, Ben stumbled onto a nightmare, a spider soldier program where men were strapped to beds and hooked up to all kinds of creatures. Snakes, lizards, praying mantises. Oh my goodness. In the center of the room was a hybrid horror, a man mutated into a spider, who lunged and bit Ben's arm before the squad shot him dead. Let me get this straight. So a spider bites man equals Spider-Man. So a Spider-Man bites man equals Spider-Man? Anyway, a horrified Ben gives the order to burn the entire facility to ash. Outside, the resource men are assembled for a historic unit photograph. Elsewhere, Ben collapses onto the pavement, the spider venom already rewriting his DNA. Ben's memories before the bite become fuzzy, and it took him a long time to relearn how to act human. He used to sit in dark movie theaters for hours studying the actors' movements and speech patterns just to suppress the spider impulses inside his brain. When Kat suggests that Flint's sand mutation comes from that same nightmare, Ben confesses the real reason he took her case. He wanted to study Flint. He hoped that whatever gave him these curses might hold the key to stripping them away. Ever since Ruby died, all he's ever wanted to do was just be Ben Reilly again. Meanwhile, Robbie Robertson delivers an ultimatum to Bugle editor Robert Walters. He has information on Dr. Faber and all her downright illegal experiments that she's been doing on the veterans. He will hand over his explosive new scoop on one condition. They print his words exactly as written and run the full retraction clearing Flint and Lonnie's names. And of course give Robbie his full-time job back. If not, the opposing newspaper, the Herald, gets the story. You tell him. In a Brooklyn alley, Flint tracks down Lonnie Lincoln. Flint explains that Silvermane looks out for his crew and offers Lonnie a spot in the crime ring. Lonnie is hesitant, snapping that he won't wear a collar for another white man. But Flint urges him to take life by the balls while they still have breath in their lungs. Yeah, that's the best analogy you could come up with. The clock is ticking, so Lonnie agrees to hear the mob boss out. Meanwhile, back at the office, Ben, Janet, and Robbie piece together a chilling common thread. Every single one of the mutated veterans have been seeing Dr. Faber, the same one Lonnie mentioned in the last episode. Across town, Silvermane questions the spider's sudden activity, but Kat dismisses the spider as just another guy trying to survive. The tension spikes when Flint and Lonnie stroll into the lounge. Kat congratulates Flint on his mob promotion to Silvermane's right hand, but Silvermane coldly dismisses her, telling her it's time to find a new venue and a younger singer. Jeez. Robbie decides it's time to meet Dr. Faber. He distracts her through questions about her patient's sudden superpowers, giving Ben the opportunity to slip upstairs and enter her office. When Faber defensively snaps that everything she does is for a higher purpose, Ben is busy web-slinging the files out the window. But before Ben can escape, the door to the office opens. He pretends to be a mentally unstable patient who entered the wrong office, and hey, it works. As he leaves, Faber's right-hand man, Ogden, recognizes Ben as the soldier from the war camp, but Ben and Robbie manage to flee just before Ogden can grab them. Meanwhile, Silvermane uses Lonnie and Flint to storm the police precinct, tossing cops like ragdolls to bust out Layden, the electric guy we saw recently. Silvermane offers him a spot on the crew, and a gleeful Layden celebrates his freedom by giving his interrogating detective a lethal high-voltage kiss that kills the lawman instantly. Ooh, talk about the kiss of death. Later, after retrieving stolen files, Ben and Robbie confirm the horrific truth. The prisoners were injected with radiated material that altered their genes. The Spider-Man who bit Ben was dying, and now Dr. Faber's treatments are actually accelerating the process. Every time Flint uses his sand powers, he's trading it for his life. Ben begs Robbie to let him break the news to Kat before she reads it in the morning paper. Ben slips through Kat's window to deliver the tragic verdict. He tells her Flint is dying, and every time he uses uses his powers, he inches closer to death. Kat is devastated and asks to be left alone, but Ben offers her a way out. Leave New York City behind for Santorini, where she can run a club and he can be her bartender. The next morning, a smiling Ben takes Janet to breakfast to tell her he's leaving town with Kat. And a supportive Janet tells him she's genuinely happy he's finally giving love a second chance. As Kat packs her bags, Lonnie knocks on her door with a warning about Flint's deteriorating mind. Kat rushes to the old theater to find Flint, desperately explaining that she framed Winston to save them both from Silvermane. Deep in his own sand-induced madness, Flint roars that he would have killed the boss himself if she had only trusted him, smashing a structural beam in his fury that nearly crushes Kat before Lonnie lunges to shield her. Yikes. As Flint disappears into the night, Kat asks Lonnie if there's any way to reverse the sickness. Lonnie admits that their only prayer lies in the spider, whose mutation is stable enough to yield a cure.
Problem is, she's got no idea who he is or where to find him.
The catch, one of them knows who's under the mask. Across town in her lab, Dr. Faber is packing up her syringes, knowing Robbie's article will bring everything about her experiments to light. Ogden urges her to run, but the door swings open and Kat walks in. Kat demands to know if Faber can truly cure Flint and Lonnie if she delivers the spider on a silver platter. Faber promises no harm will come to the hero. Desperate to save the man she loves, Kat looks at the doctor dead in the eye and reveals Ben Reilly's identity. In episode 6, Ben is packing his bags to leave the city's deep shadows behind for a new life with Kat. That's when someone knocks on the door. It's Ogden, Dr. Faber's right-hand man, though Ben fails to recognize him at first. Ogden pulls out an old military photograph, revealing that he was the young man in the photo nicknamed Freckles, whom Ben saved from the German camp. Despite looking like a senior citizen, Ogden is only 36. What? His unstable mutation has rapidly been aging him, and Faber is his only hope. He begs Ben to stop Robbie Robertson from printing the Bugle article, warning it will kill Faber's research and destroy his only chance at life. Ben sighs, admitting Robbie won't stop publishing for anyone, when Ben pulls out his spider mask, choosing his own escape with Kat over a dying soldier's plea. Ogden's desperation boils over. He drives a needle into Ben, knocking him out. Damn, that's cold. Ben wakes up strapped to a hospital bed inside Dr. Faber's high-tech secret laboratory as Faber preps her blood retrieval kits to harvest his genes. Ben threatens to kill her, but she just dismisses him.
You're not a murderer. You're a hero.
The lab environment triggers a flashback for Ben during the war days. We see a younger Ben waking up to find a sticky web fluid oozing from his wrists. He's also having uncontrollable tics while military doctors poke and prod him, thinking all that this is wrong with him is a little PTSD, not genetic mutation. Back in the present, Faber explains that the army only wanted to weaponize the veterans, whereas her experiments are driven by a mother's desperate love to save her son, Ogden. She's his mom? Faber then reveals Kat Hardy was the one who sold Ben out to secure a cure for Flint. The betrayal cuts deeper than any blade, and the sedatives take hold. He drifts back into a feverish drug-induced hallucination. When Ben finally wakes up, a guilty Ogden offers him a glass of water, telling him that there's still time to be a hero.
I was never a hero. I only did it for the thrill.
Well, maybe you weren't then. But there's still time for you to become one.
Ben says he's afraid he's never going to be let out, and he might just be right. Dr. Faber enters with grim news. Ben's blood chemistry is too stable, meaning they must surgically harvest his internal organs to make the antidote. As they wheel him into surgery, Ben starts hallucinating again.
Trying to say something.
I like ravioli.
You will have ravioli.
While he's down, Ben dreams of military surgeons cutting him open as thousands of spiders pour from his wounds, before seeing Ruby transform into his spider persona, leaving him trapped in a surreal spiderized nightmare. At the same time, Faber finally strikes gold. She successfully creates a glowing solution and injects it into Ogden. His body convulses violently before the impossible happens. Ogden's wrinkled skin smooths out, restoring him to his true 36-year-old self. She actually did it. Ecstatic, Faber declares they must destroy the evidence and run. She refuses to give Ben the antidote, pulling a gun to execute him so no witnesses remain to alert the police. Ogden gently takes the revolver from her hand, insisting that soldier to soldier he should be the one to look Ben in the eye when it happens. Meanwhile, the surgery weakened Ben physically, but mentally he's still strong. He has already used a line of webbing to snag the keys and unlock his restraints, but he can barely stand. Ogden walks in and surprises Ben by helping him up, promising to save his life. All he asks for in return is a promise that Ben won't harm his mother. As they ride the elevator towards the surface, Ben's spidey senses flare. He realizes Robbie's published the article, broadcasting the lab's location to the entire city, and Silvermane has already read the morning paper. Down in the alley, Silvermane arrives with his superpowered team. Lonnie, Flynn, and the electrical rogue Layden. Ogden pushes Ben to safety at the surface before racing back down to the lab, where Faber is frantically bottling the remaining antidote. He doesn't have the heart to abandon his mother. Downstairs, Silvermane's crew corners the doctor, demanding she lead them to the other test subjects. Faber guides them into a containment ward filled with the preserved bodies of her research failures, insisting she can still fix the survivors. The veterans see the bodies and recognize their friends and fellow soldiers amongst them. This angers them so much they lose control. Layden unleashes a massive electrical shock, dropping Faber to the floor. Ogden rushes in to shield his mother, but they are utterly outmatched. Layden unleashes a lethal surge of high-voltage energy, killing both mother and son instantly while sparking a massive, roaring chemical fire. Damn, did they really have to be killed? The entire facility is now on fire. As Silvermane, Flint, Lonnie, and Layden escape, moments later, the spider emerges from the smoke and ash, bruised but alive. He glances down at his fist, and he has saved the antidote. Oh my goodness. Episode 7 opens in the dimly lit rooms of the alcove, and Kat can't stop checking the time as she plays the piano. She keeps thinking about her last conversation with Ben and the chilling reality that she sold him out to Dr. Faber. The trance is shattered when Silvermane and his crew return back to the club. Kat immediately asks them what went down at the lab. Lonnie says they found nothing but the dead, preserved remains of their old army buddies locked away in jars. Realizing there were no answers or salvation left in the basement, they burn the entire facility to the ground. The veteran trio then marched straight into Mayor Alfred Morris's campaign headquarters to rob the election funds. 'Cause why not?
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
When the mayor returns to find his office entirely ransacked and his funds cleaned out, he furiously turns to the police chief. The chief just shrugs, pointing out that Silvermane literally has 3 men with superpowers. The chief warns the mayor that, without the spider, City Hall doesn't stand a chance, and the mayor won't be occupying his seat much longer. Yikes. Meanwhile, Kat visits Ben's office, where Janet is sitting inside. Kat frantically asks if she's seen Ben, forcing Janet to admit that she hasn't heard from her boss since Saturday. Janet places a call to Robbie because she feels like something's off, while a guilt-ridden Kat slips back into the streets, telling Janet to call her as soon as Ben is found. Across town, Ben is drowning his sorrows in alcohol, spiraling hard after Kat's betrayal. At the bar, a bunch of guys start trash-talking the spider, laughing that the masked vigilante is washed up. Ben explodes, defending the hero by highlighting how much he has suffered, which the drunks just laugh at. Disgusted, Ben grabs his trench coat, steps into the alley to pull his mask over his face, and storms right back into the bar and absolutely beats the out of the men. Serves them right. Robbie tracks him down just as the dust settles, and Ben reveals the antidote. He bitterly declares that he's going to take it and lose all his powers, but Robbie just snatches the antidote away. Surely this thing needs more security. Robbie just says if Ben really wanted to take the antidote, he would have already done it. Ben reveals Kat's betrayal to Robbie. Robbie listens at first, but then brings up what would happen to New York if Ben lost his powers. When Ben says that the city always hated him, Robbie objects, explaining that he always understood the price of being a hero. Ben admits that he never wore the mask for justice, it just made him feel good inside. Robbie asks why Ben deserves the cure more than Lonnie and Flint, who, unlike him, are dying. He points out how ridiculous Ben sounds by losing all rationality after one heartbreak. Ben couldn't save Ruby because he was blind to the danger, but this time he has a choice. Robbie takes a sobered Ben back to the agency, where Ben reveals what happened at the lab to Janet, accidentally slipping the fact that he is the spider. Janet doesn't even blink. She confesses she's known his secret for years, having seen him while he was drunk and in full costume.
I'm your spider, be my spider, to be real.
She only kept quiet so he wouldn't worry about her knowing. Meanwhile, Kat returns to her apartment to find Flint waiting in the dark. Flint pours his heart out, confessing that a gorgeous, classy woman like her choosing him felt too good to be true. Kat just repeats that she loves him, but Flint entirely resigned to his fate, stating they all saw what happened to the veterans in the lab. He doesn't fear his death. What breaks him is the realization that Kat was already moving on with Ben before his body was even cold. Oof, that does sting. He promises not to betray her to Silvermane, but warns her that the boss will sniff out the reality and truth eventually, and once he's dead, there will be no one left to protect her. That was a really heavy conversation. Back at the office, Ben is dividing the antidote into syringes, planning to inject inject Lonnie, Flint, and Layden to save their lives, and then finally cure himself. Just as the needles are packed, Ben hears over the radio about a violent, superpowered assault tearing through Harlem. Robbie surprisingly reaches the scene first, trying to reason with Lonnie in a scrambling alleyway. Before Lonnie can brush him off, the spider swings into the scene, tackling Lonnie into the concrete. When the spider attempts to jab the antidote into Lonnie's neck, Lonnie's hardened skin snaps the needle in half.
Uh-oh.
Before the fight can get worse, the spider lunges forward, driving the syringe straight into Lonnie's eye. Holy! The serum works, and Lonnie's powers melt away, restoring his normal human face and form. The spider powers also decide to shut down at this moment, since he's still recovering from Dr. Faber's experiments on his body. As Silvermane's men open fire on the scene, a grateful Lonnie helps the spider get into Robbie's car and drive away. Holed up at Robbie's apartment, a newly cured Lonnie appears to slip out of New York with his mother to start a peaceful new life, thanking the duo for saving him. Lonnie looks at Robbie and tells him the city needs men like Robbie just as much as it needs the spider. But not all things are good, as it turns out both the mayor and Silvermane have figured out the existence of the antidote. Both City Hall and the mob make it deadly clear that they need to hunt down Ben Reilly at all costs. The season finale opens with a menacingly calm Silvermane lecturing a trembling Cat Hardy at his club. His advice for survival: never get comfortable, never be satisfied, never accept what you've been given. The second he slips away to the bathroom, Cat lunges for the telephone and places a call to meet someone. Turns out that someone is Janet, who meets Cat at the abandoned theater and immediately slaps her.
That's for Ben. I deserved that. And that's for me.
Damn! Janet confronts Kat for selling Ben out to Dr. Faber. Kat defends her betrayal as an act of desperate love and wanting to save Flint. Kat insists she can make things right if Ben gives her the remaining antidotes. She can get close enough to Flint and Layden to inject them before they ever see it coming. When Janet returns to the office, the phone is already ringing. A friendly cop named Hank drops a warning. The entire department has been ordered to hunt Ben down. Janet rushes to inform Ben, unaware that Silvermane's men are tailing her. She slips into Robbie's apartment, where an exhausted Ben is still recovering, his powers completely gone. Janet pitches Kat's plan, and despite the heartbreak, Ben chooses to believe her. He knows firsthand what a desperate person will do for love. Before they can formulate a strategy, Flint and Layden break into the apartment to drag Ben straight to Silvermane. Robbie frantically tries to slip the remaining antidote vials into Ben's trench coat, but Layden shoves Ben out the door before he can even grab his coat. Back at the alcove, Silvermane corners Ben, demanding he call his spider friend to get a ceasefire, as he can't have his superpower force turned back to normal. Ben plays it cool, saying he'll get in contact with the spider for some cash. But he can't do it over the phone, as it's hard for the hero to talk through his mask. Ben is cornered and places the call to the spider, while a clever Robbie works the other end of the line, brilliantly mimicking Ben's voice, pretending to be the spider. After the call, Ben and Kat share a tense drink. She notes she could have easily told Silvermane he was the spider, while Ben counters that he could have exposed her as the rat, both agreeing silently to never reveal the truth. But the peace is shattered when Layden stares hard at Ben, suddenly recognizing him as the soldier who liberated them from the German camp. Silvermane's sharp mind instantly pieces the puzzle together, deducing that Ben is actually the spider. Uh-oh. Ben tries to lie, claiming he merely saved the hero's life in France, but Silvermane isn't buying it. The mob boss snatches Kat's gun, declaring there is only one way to test the theory. He'll pull the trigger on Kat. If Ben is just a normal person, Kat dies. If he's the spider, he will stop the bullet. Having had enough of being passive, Kat screams that Ben will never save her because she broke his heart for Flint. She confesses the entire truth to Silvermane, that she was the rat all along and she wanted nothing more than to see the gangster dead. Oh, she is so screwed now. Just as Silvermane prepares to execute her, the door bursts open and Robbie stumbles into the room disguised as the spider. Silvermane tries to recruit the hero while Ben desperately signals Robbie to get out before he does something stupid, since he still doesn't have his powers back. That's when Silvermane's goons march in dragging Janet, who was caught lurking outside with the antidote syringes. Things just keep getting worse. Layden snatches a syringe and drives the needle into the fake spider's neck, instantly realizing something is wrong when they rip away the mask and see Robbie's face. Layden turns on Silvermane, realizing the mob boss just wants the antidote to keep his superpowered slaves under his thumb. Layden threatens to smash the remaining vials, forcing Silvermane to order Flint to take Layden down. As the other two veterans are fighting, it finally happens. Ben's powers return. In a flash of pure fury, Ben is able to grab the antidote, temporarily sidelining Flint and Layden. At the same time, Robbie regains consciousness and Ben puts his spider suit back on. Silvermane decides it's best to run away, and Kat follows him into a mirror maze. She manages to corner the mob boss, unloads her pistol, and fires the final fatal shot that kills Silvermane and buys her freedom.
My one regret is I only get to kill you once.
Meanwhile, it's raining outside as the veterans continue fighting. In the chaos, one of the 2 remaining antidote vials shatters on the floor, leaving only a single dose left. Mustering every ounce of strength, the Spider violently slams 2 parked cars together, completely flattening Flint Marko into a pile of loose sand. Damn. But Layden is only growing stronger, absorbing the city's electrical currents. As the Spider focuses on Layden, Flint forms himself back and attacks the Spider from behind, smashing his face into a vehicle and tearing away half his mask. Layden steps over him and unleashes a lethal charge of electricity. Just as the light begins to fade from the Spider's eyes, Kat runs into the street, screaming for Layden to stop. She pulls the trigger of her gun, but it's empty. Layden blasts her with a violent volt of electricity, sending her crashing to the pavement. Seeing the woman he loves harmed, Flint snaps. He shifts all of his attacks to Layden in anger, but the pure heat of Layden's electricity begins to rapidly bake Flint's body, horrifyingly turning his sand body into easily shattering glass. Before Layden can shatter him completely, the Spider lunges, yanking the electrical monster off Flint and throwing him straight into the path of a passing train that kills Layden on impact. What the hell just happened? After all the insanity, the fight is over. A weeping Cat holds Flint, or what remains of him, as the Spider slips the very last vial of the antidote into her hands before vanishing. We jump ahead to a gray afternoon at a lonely cemetery. Silvermane is laid to rest with only Cat and a fully cured human Flint in attendance. Ben also shows up, and Flint offers a sincere nod of gratitude. Kat looks at Ben and softly admits that in another life she would have boarded that train to Santorini with him. Ben merely offers a classic jab.
It's one thing to use a guy. It's another to try and keep him on the hook after you've set sail for shore.
Go to hell, Ben.
I have. I'm keeping it warm for you.
As Mayor Alfred Morris celebrates his re-election on the radio, Robbie happily reveals he's creating his own independent newspaper, the Harlem Herald. Janet, meanwhile, is finally stepping into her new role as Ben's official, equal partner in the firm. As for Ben Reilly, he's finally found a way to coexist with the Spider ticking inside his brain. As the trio steps out into the rain to grab a couple of cheap street hot dogs, Ben casually flicks his wrist. A line of web perfectly picks his fedora off the rack and places it right into his hand. He pulls the door shut, and the camera pans out, and we see the office's brand new upgraded sign. Riley and Ruiz, private investigators, continuing to protect the city. Well, that's all for this season of Spider-Noir, everybody. What do you think of the ending, you guys? I knew something was up with Kat right from the start. Let me know if you'd like me to cover the next season when it comes out as well, or if you want me to cover some other spin-off. Also, let me know, did you watch it in black and white or in full color? Till then, feel free to like, subscribe, share this video, do all those other awesome things you people do. Watch another one of my videos, and I'll see you next time.